Today, I am joined by Nevin Rasassin. He is the Policy and Program Specialist with Alberta Pulse Growers. Thank you so much for joining me.
No problem. Happy to be here.
So just growing conditions across the province are not great, to say the least. What's it like to be growing this year?
So I think producers have seen a little bit of everything this year. Obviously a very cool spring, not a lot of moisture reserves from last fall. And certainly, we've seen weeks of above 30-degree weather in southern parts of Alberta, and even, records being broken up in the Peace Country as well in the low 40s. So our producers have been experiencing lower than, I guess, average or long-term average rainfall, but also higher daytime temperatures than ever recorded before. And certainly there's been a lot of producers, some of our more seasoned farmers, so to speak, that remember 1988 and of course 2002 and 2003, but even some of the very old timers talking about 1961 and this year being very similar. One of the things that we haven't seen in those other years was high winds, and we had some winds all across Alberta and the prairies that were, relentless. And so the wind speeds as well as the high temps have really taken a toll on a lot of crops.
Seems like the perfect storm of bad conditions for this year's growing year. Just how dire is the situation?
So I would say that from the pulse crop perspective, our dry beans and are certainly under irrigation. Some of our irrigated pea crops and lentil crops are doing well. Lentils, seem to be a fairly good crop for water use efficiency. Certainly they have a lot more yield per vegetation type of index, right? They set a lot more grain yield in relation to the amount of vegetation you need. But our pea crops are suffering, and even under irrigation, growers are expecting below average yields. So from the pulse perspective across the province, faba beans, which are traditionally grown in most areas of the province, but under irrigation are doing okay. But anywhere else, faba beans love moisture. So we're looking at maybe 30% of average yields in faba beans. Peas, definitely below average, maybe 50% of what we're used to for yield. And, again, our irrigated crops, dry beans are doing well. Certainly some chickpea growers have caught some timely rains. We don't have a lot of chickpeas, but yes, across the board on pulses, other than dry beans, we're going to see reduced yields.
And I know at both the federal and provincial levels of government, there's been talk around the Agri Recovery program. What exactly does that entail?
Great question. And I guess the devil will be in the details. What we have been assured by our ag minister provincially, Minister Dreeshen, that he was going to bring this to Minister Bibeau's attention in the FPT meetings that happened last Thursday. And certainly I think Agri Recovery was brought up. How that payment might take place or what shape or form is another question. Whether it will be broad, payment across many counties or targeted, we're not sure. All we know is that the minister agreed that, to put semantics aside and to go with his counterparts in Saskatchewan and Manitoba and make the case for Agri Recovery. Certainly the program is cost shared 60-40, 60 being the feds, 40 being the province. And Minister Dreeshen, in a meeting last week with all of the major crop commissions as well as Alberta Beef, had reiterated his support, but also Minister Tave's support, the finance minister, that they would be willing to ante up the 40% for Agri Recovery. Certainly in 1988, there was a large payment that was made. 2002, I believe, as well, to the tune of somewhere around 800 million was released. Again, in today's dollars, we're not sure what to expect. All we know is that both ministers have said that they recognize the hurt out there.
Well, thank you so much for joining me. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Jillian. Happy to chat with you today.